Today I have another Palantir stock update to share. We have some recent news, of course. You've heard by now the Army selecting Palantir for a new contract. Many people jumped at this. The stock spiked almost up to 15% in after hours. It was great to see, but it turns out this is not a guaranteed amount. It's an indefinite delivery, so Palantir is subject to receive some of that, not the entire sum. So nothing to get too excited about just yet. It's also not entirely new, them working with the Army. Of course, we've known about this before. But what I am actually more excited about, or equally excited, I should say, both of these are great things, is this 10:06 news that Palantir has introduced a second cohort of Foundry for Builders startups. So what does that mean? Well, we heard first time when they announced Foundry for Builders that this is an alumni program, meaning they were only letting companies that have worked with Palantir before or have Palantir employees that have gone on and founded these companies, hence the name alumni, work with Foundry for Builders because it's this new platform, not necessarily entirely new, but working with these smaller startup companies is new for Palantir and they want to get it right. So they're working with these smaller companies that they already have connections with to build out the network from there. Here are the new ones. I'm not going to read through them because that wouldn't be entirely useful, but it's great to know they're expanding this heading into Q4, not an entirely big deal for the financial side of things, of course, but very exciting for the future of the company. I wanted to talk about that, but let's get going. And you'll remember I was kind of poking fun at Palantir. Of course, it's not necessarily something to laugh about, but between their Q2 earnings report announcement and numbers there were actually 7 other news items all the way back to Q1, as you'll see here. So now why was I laughing at this? Well, I was laughing because at that point, there was only one other announcement here. So today we're going to dive in. We're going to see what possibly could be the tailwinds, the drivers for Q3. Now that we are into Q4, these two actually do not count, or actually all three of them. So we did not have a single new news announcement. I just want to make that clear from the investor Palantir Relations place. We're going to be diving back through Twitter and seeing the archive there to see what could actually be driving. Are there new contracts? Are there new collaborations that we may have missed and that they did not publicize? But we'll get to that in 1 second. First, I want to pull this up, which is actually Capital IQ and their tear sheet. No, not their tear sheet. Their PDF or such of Palantir. Now, Capital IQ, if you are aware, is a very great place to look for information. We have this really great breakdown between the government and commercial revenues, and something I've not seen visualized before, which is really, really key. So look at this. Government, we've always known this has been ahead. This is kind of where Palantir started out, and it's only accelerated. Their revenue percentage, I guess you could say, because this is in relation to commercial, has actually accelerated in recent times. Look, 2019 to 2020, we don't have the new figures just yet, but you'll see the difference. Commercial, it does look there was a very slight uptick, I guess you could say, but government, again, a much sharper, more highly accelerated ramp, and this is something I've talked about in previous videos. Now, part of that has to do with, I guess you could say, the deal with the pandemic, where the government was actually very much in need of these contracts, and that really showed the strength of Palantir and what they provide. But again, I am someone that is very much hoping to see commercial take off and really be the growth driver behind. So, and this is even going back to when I talked to Tom Nash. If government actually continues to lead, probably not like that because that's not even possible. If it continues to lead and commercial drags behind, that is actually a bearish sign in both of our opinions, in our analysis. We want to see commercial overtake flip government revenue because that is much more of an open market out there where government is much more unpredictable, but Palantir is in that business. While we are just on this topic right here, here's the breakdown of their operations in different countries around the world. United States taking up more than 50%, of course. And then we have the United Kingdom, France, and the rest of the world. There was a subscriber who actually reached out to me via email and said, what actually is the rest of the world? What does that represent? So I emailed Palantir Investor Relations and unfortunately have not heard back. And this was a while ago. I know they're very busy, but we would like to get to the bottom of that if anyone does know the answer there. So just moving forward, we were talking about Q3. This is very much a preliminary preview to that. I will have much more preview content coming, but again, look, this is probably going to be around November, mid-November. The quarter ended September 31st, and we are now into October, but they're not going to actually put forth their report until November. They're a little behind in that regard, but that's just how they've been doing it, which is fine, into the next month. But you will see earnings season is coming up, and Palantir will be in the latter half of that. So just keep that date in the mind. That is actually the estimated date, so it's not confirmed just yet, but in that ballpark, we should be expecting it. Not sure what this is. Need to look into that. So let's move along and see what Palantir has actually accomplished in the time in the third quarter. Now, why would this be important? Well, it would be great to know. Let's just see what they've been talking about, what they've been marketing on their Twitter page, and if that could spell something for their, of course, Q3 earnings report, which is coming the quarter that ended. Here we are. That was June 30th. Now we're into July here, just a blog, and then we got an award. And then we have just them talking about a previous contract, continuing on with that. They got named as another award. So I'm just moving through this very quickly. Lots of marketing, partnering. Yes, that was already. See, a lot of this is just celebrating their existing partners. Foundry for builders, yes, that may have actually been when they announced it. I forget the exact date, but you'll see they're expanding and expounding upon that now. Edge AI, some marketing around there. Again, the marketing is great, but we want to know what actually came about in this quarter. So I'm just looking through this. Lots of blog posts. They're very good at that. Trying to open source some of their thinking in a technical manner. Here we have them saying that FDIC selected Palantir as, of course, a finalist for their next phase of the rapid phase prototyping competition. I've talked about this in a video before, search it up if you missed that, but we do not have an end result from that yet. So that will not be impacting the Q3 results or any future earnings for that matter until we know the result, and that should be coming soon, I would suppose. A joint pilot project with Black Sky. We have Wejo. See, that's one of these SPACs that are working with. They love promoting those because they really do believe in them. That's why they're investing in them. There really haven't been many contracts, and I'll get to why that's important in a second, other than just the surface level observation. Seem to be working very closely with Wejo. Here it is again. Of course, I experienced all of this in real time. You'll see I've liked all of these, almost all of them. There we go. So there you have it. Not much news, I will say, from Palantir, but let's bring it back to what matters. And what matters is what Palantir actually guided for in their Q2 earnings release, because this would be, let's see, where $385 million in revenue. So how does that actually compare? Well, in Q2, they did $376 million in revenue, which is 49% year-over-year growth. But if I remember correctly, 376 over was about 342 maybe. It was about a 10% quarter-over-quarter growth, whereas 385 over 376 would be 2% quarter-over-quarter growth. So this is when I was talking to Palantir management, and I said, that seems absurdly conservative. Why is this figure so low? And they came back and said, you have to understand the seasonality of the business. And that's still something I don't quite grasp, I don't believe. So here we are on Hypercharts. Let's observe and see if we can find any seasonality, because it does seem with no new publicly announced contracts that maybe Palantir is setting up for a slow quarter-over-quarter growth rate, which we will find out. But here we are on Q1. Let's just observe the Q2 to Q3 change in revenue growth, which actually I believe we can go down to revenue. No, that's year over year. So we've got to stay with this. Let's just look from 176 to 190. So 190 over 176 for that was an 8% quarter over quarter growth rate. So let's do it again. 289 to, what was it? 252. 289 to 252, which is a 15% growth rate. And now we have this quarter. We have quarter two to what Palantir is about to announce in about a little over a month or so, as we stand at this point. Are they really only going to deliver 3% growth? Now, no, they are not, because they are conservative in their financial estimates and forecasts. But the point is, maybe this quarter isn't going to be as strong as I had initially hoped. Now, will that impact the stock? Not necessarily. The stock does its own thing. It trades lower on good news, trades flat on bad news. It really is just not tied to the performance of the financials of the company, obviously. Anyway, I'll leave it here for now. Lots of exciting stuff to come. Even if Palantir isn't about to blow out their earnings report, there will be lots of exciting Q&A, and I could be totally wrong, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Am I missing something big? What could drive Palantir's financial results? Is it contracts that they've been getting that they haven't been talking about? Or does it not even matter if they get new contracts every quarter? Of course, I think it does, but maybe I'm just missing the importance of the quarter. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Much more to come. Until next time.